What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Barbells and Trails Podcast. I'm your host, Bret, back with another episode 63, I think.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with 63. I honestly don't know because we kind of have been on a hiatus. I don't think I've posted in a month. It's about that long.
You've been a bad boy.
Yeah, I've been pretty bad recently, and I apologize. But we got some news.
We do have news.
Go ahead. You tell them, Riley.
Welcome to the new co-host. Look at this.
just look at him. Like, would you look at that?
Look at that.
Yeah, so Riley is now an official co-host of the podcast.
Yep.
So he will be in probably almost every episode,
Hopefully.
if not every episode. Yep. So he's going to be doing that with me now, so I won't be completely relying on my own brain. So hopefully he'll keep track of me, and I'll keep track of him to make sure that we always get shit out for you guys. Yeah. But, I mean, I feel like the past month, I actually don't have a good reason to basically not post.
I've just been busy.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that. Like, technically, I feel like the past week and a half has been reasonably busy for me.
Right.
So, you guys don't know this because I haven't been on the podcast, so no one knows.
Whoa.
I got my first official listing on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been dealing with that, and things have actually moved pretty quickly. So, there was, last week, it was meeting them for the first time, and then the next night, getting paperwork signed, and then scheduling photography, and then doing stuff on the MLS, getting other shit ready. Like, from there, had a few showings. The next Monday, I wasn't home till like 9 because finally got offers in, did all this stuff, had to go to their house, had to get paperwork signed, and then send everything and get home. So I had a few nights where I was actually working pretty much till 9 o'clock at night doing real estate shit.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of throws me off, especially because I would say normally if at least up until this point, I was normally recording. If I wasn't recording on the weekends, I was making it up on the like Mondays because that was when I did the office shit. So I had a little more time in the evening. Yeah. And so when those days were taken by that, kind of made it rough.
Yeah.
But hey, we're here.
We are here.
And so there will be some changes here and there. Hopefully some, I'll say, I guess upgrades in production value, sort of.
Sure.
Like, yeah. I think we're going to hopefully add some more cameras, more angles. So it's not going to be just one dynamic frame. Actually change it up, kind of do that kind of stuff. So I'll make it a little more interesting.
Hopefully have some guests.
That's something we will eventually work on and get some people in. Yeah, no, I honestly haven't really just asked. That is part of the problem.
You haven't asked anybody?
It's been like mentioned, but I feel weird asking. And the thing is it reminds me, I don't know if you know who Simon and Randolph are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people from the Sidemen.
Yeah.
They have their own podcast. It's called What's Good, and they have even said that like they hate asking people if they want to, like, asking people to come on the podcast. Even friends, they're like they don't like asking, and I'm like, at least those guys are in like the YouTube space. They've had a podcast for years. They have like rapport with people and an audience, like a large audience. So for them to ask someone, I'm like, it makes more sense for you to be willing to do this. Some of these people like are on YouTube. They have their own podcast.
Right.
Like, ask them. It's not that big a deal. Whereas like for me, it's kind of weird because some people might not totally know what to do on a podcast or whatever and feel kind of weird about it. So it is kind of strange because like, let alone telling someone like, hey, I got a podcast.
Right.
It's already
it's a little different when you're like in front of a camera.
It is. Like, I mean, the only reason I think initially when me and Noah started recording for the first time, and the thing is we didn't even have a camera, but I could still tell Noah was nervous. Like, you could realize it immediately.
Well, you could tell when he just did like 2-word answers.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm excited.
Yep. And I'm literally like, I wish I had FaceTime right now to see his reaction, because I would just like give him a look, being like, dude, what the fuck? Like,
dude, like, we should do one with Noah.
We could.
On Zoom.
We should.
Like you guys did.
I feel like that would be interesting to do for, I don't know, anyone. I feel like if there's anybody we know, that'd be kind of fun to do, because it's not necessarily super hard. I feel like the only thing is trying to figure out logistically getting like the recording, being able to hear them, like all that stuff. but I feel like we could make it
We definitely
work.
We could.
So that would be fun to do sometime. But yeah, like when the only reason I feel like I handled the mic better when we first started was at that point I already had a YouTube channel. It wasn't great, but like I had recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was like I had hours of trying to kind of talk by myself and try to add like commentary or playing COD with people and recording, and it not bother me that like my voice is being recorded and having to watch it back and putting it online because I had already kind of done that. And so I feel like that was part of his thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I'm like not nervous, I guess, but like because I played games and stuff, and you play with randoms, and you just like talk. Basically.
Yeah. At one point you get more comfortable just talking to random people.
Yeah,
and sadly I feel like that's less common nowadays in general.
It
but,
definitely is. Including in my generation.
Mm-hmm. We're the same, bud. We're the same generation.
Okay, true. But
yeah,
I meant like
I know what you mean.
But
yeah,
I guess not generation, but kids my age.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem, and I feel like Noah in general, like he's both super outgoing, but at the same time can be like very timid and shy, which is so two complete opposites.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like me, I'm not shy. Like there might be situations depending on the scenarios, and when I meet people, like I can be quiet and I can just kind of sit back and listen, especially if it's people I don't know well. But other than that, like Noah just like can be like very awkward and kind of like hides in the corner.
I'm a very like outgoing person, I feel like, but like it does get to a certain point. Like if I'm with a group of people, I just like this is enough for me. I want to go home.
It's exactly and it depends on the person, and it depends on like how much time I've been somewhere. Because there's definitely some days in general where it's like, oh, maybe I could have went and done something with somebody, but there's just there's some days where you're just like, I really just don't feel like doing anything. You're like, I'd rather just stay at home and watch a movie and maybe lay in bed and go to bed early, like whatever, instead of going and doing something, because sometimes that costs money and cost energy. But yeah, so I know what you mean. I feel like I noticed in general, just even with you and Bailey, I noticed a difference from your first time on compared to your second time on, compared to whatever fucking many times Bailey's been on. Like, I don't know if you know this, the first time me and Bailey recorded was when I was still over there.
You guys were like sitting together.
We had one mic.
Yeah.
A comforter around us. I was sitting in the computer chair. She had another chair, and we basically did that because we wanted to keep the echo as narrow as possible. Like I had a blanket hanging on the door to help with like more muffling in the room and all this shit, and we were trying to record off of one mic, so like it didn't sound great, like all this stuff, but we tried making it work.
It did work though.
It did work. Like it didn't not, but it was kind of a pain. Like I'm glad that like even though honestly there weren't a lot of major differences put into like even setting this up. I guess there kind of was like, more money on like a mic,
right?
Actually recording with that, computer being over there, having some sound speakers, so it does make it, or sound absorbers and stuff on the wall. It does kind of have that effect where it does make it easier. But yeah, that like the first handful of months was pretty rednecky with it.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
even when you guys did, I don't know how you and Noah recorded the first like 2 episodes.
So I would record normally. Like my stuff was pretty much fine. Like I already would record on my computer.
Oh yeah, Noah just had like a little mic.
Noah would, I think, just use like earbud microphone, and I think on his laptop, and then me and him would actually be on the phone together, so we could hear one another. So we recorded our audio separately, plus like had to listen to one another. And I think the first time there was something weird where I think it might have been the first or second episode. Noah had me on speaker, and so
you could hear
the
yourself.
audio was picking up me on his mic. So I had to go through and try cutting spots where Noah just wasn't talking. When Noah
Noah
wasn't talking, it was me. I had to go through, cut those sections and mute his audio through the whole podcast, because if not, you would hear me in the background. And classic, like, again, you had an echo. And I was like, oh shit. And so like he was doing that, and yeah, we would literally be like on the phone, and I had an AirPod in, and we'd just sit there and we'd talk and record our shit separately. There probably was a better way to do it, but we didn't know necessarily at the time.
Right.
So I mean, hey, it got the job done a bit.
It did. But I did laugh the first episode. First time I heard it.
Yeah.
I did laugh because I never heard you guys' story.
Oh,
you guys
yeah,
technically
that's true.
Met.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, I mean, your mom and even my parents, like, it's not necessarily a story, especially at the time when we were 15, that you wanted to promote. And the funny thing is, it's so crazy, is at the time, like, I don't think anyone would have expected me as the person to do something like that, for one. Really? So, yeah, I mean, you know what I look like as a sophomore. Like, I was a very unsuspecting child. And I say child because even though I was like 15, I look like a child.
Yeah, I know I did too.
But not near as bad. Let alone did
dealer.
Brody or Danny. Like they all had like facial hair, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so, the funny thing is like going back the next year, like there was people in my group that mentioned hearing about people sneaking out the year before, and I was like, yeah, that was me and 3 other guys, and they were like, what? I was like, yeah. Like, we did, like, yeah, that was me. Like, I was involved in that. And
do they
like,
believe you though?
Yeah, they did, because I kind of told them what happened and what we did, and like also, it could have been because of us. We're not 100% sure, but like there was certain things that we did the year before where we got into certain rooms and got into the basement and stuff.
It was locked.
Where we couldn't do it. So we don't know if it was because of us or in general someone was doing their job better. Like, right. So it's kind of hard to tell, because I think we honestly just got really lucky. Like, using the service elevator, we just happened to be on a random floor and it worked. And I don't think it's technically supposed to work except with someone that has a key.
I was just say, don't you need to put a key in and turn it?
But for some reason, we just happened to smack it one time walking through one of the hallways, because we were somewhere and we just went to like the top floor just because, and we just tapped the button, and then we were like, wait, it's coming up here, and so we got in it, and that's how we got into the basement and stuff. And because the regular elevators don't go to the basement, the regular elevators just go to the main floor. Like, that's
so
the
that's
public
why
stuff.
You got in the basement.
We got in the service elevator.
Oh,
so like between that and everything, like it was just kind of crazy that story in general unfolded, but it was also so much fun. Like,
it seemed like fun.
It was tiring as shit, but it was a good time.
I kind of wanted to do it.
What, Academy?
Yeah. After hearing you guys, but then I was gonna say, I don't have anybody to go with. But
it was a good time. I feel like that, and then there's just a few things that I wish I had done more in 4-H. So it does kind of suck. Like, there's not anything like that you can do as an adult besides just like regular vacation and then getting up to no good. Like that's about it. Like that's the next
just like
thing.
Childhood, like just, I don't know, sneaking out and having adventures is always just more fun than being an adult. And just like,
I mean, you can do the same thing as an adult.
You could, but like you don't have like that childhood like fear
of getting caught.
Like just like
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I think it depends on the situation, but yeah, because there's definitely certain times where you might have it a little bit, cause maybe you're doing something you shouldn't necessarily be doing, or something. Because that's kind of like the same thing. It's like the whole night we were kind of on edge because we were like, oh, what if someone finds us or like catches us? Like, oh, we have to keep an eye on for like campus police or something. But at the same time, we were kind of like, what would they do? Like, honestly, if they did find us just out here, I don't know how much of trouble we would really get in. Like, we weren't necessarily, in the end, we didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's not like we were vandalizing. We weren't like drinking or some shit. Like, we literally just walked out of the building. Like, that's all we did. We walked out of the building and we were locked out. So we walked around campus. That's basically like, that was our alibi.
You guys were locked out. Yeah. So you had to wait.
So in the end, I don't feel like we necessarily did anything wrong. So that was one reason why we were like, I think that's the thing that kind of got us to do it, because at first we were like, we could have left at like 11. we ended up not going and actually leaving the building until like 2 because we were concerned that like, oh, if we leave now, we will be gone for 8 hours before we can get back in the building. Mm-hmm. So we're like, let's wait a little longer before we actually leave, so it's not necessarily as long. Because once you're out, you're out.
When did the doors unlock?
Like 6:30, I think.
Oh, so you had like the 4 hours.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing is, like the day before, Noah went running, so we had an alibi. If people were like, "Where were you?" We're like, "Oh, well, we're running with this guy. He went running yesterday." Our people allowed it.
2 a.m. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't have told him that. We would have been like, "Oh yeah, we came out here like an hour ago."
Right. Yeah.
But. So it was fun. I mean, shit, we went to McDonald's at 3 a.m. on the other side of campus. Like, I think we walked like 6 or 7 miles that night. Just
hey, heck no, you probably can't even go to McDonald's. Probably not open 24 hours.
Probably not. I was surprised they were because it did kind of seem semi-closed.
Right.
But we were able to go in. But hey, it's fun. As for the podcast though, as well, we forgot to mention this. We probably will do a rebranding.
That's true.
Not sure exactly how or like what yet, but we probably will rebrand because, I mean, me and him's talked about it off camera. The podcast name just doesn't totally make sense. Like,
yeah, I mean, at first when you and Noah did it, I could see it.
Yeah,
but
like I don't
like saying I'm taking Noah's spot, but
I mean, you're not. I'm not. You're really not. It's been over a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, the thing is like when I don't know if I actually ever explained it on here. Tell me if I have, but like when I first came up with the name, because like Noah's terrible at this shit. I'm not much better when it comes to this kind of stuff.
You came up with it? I thought it was you and Noah.
Like, well, it was both of us, but a few things that he threw out was like, I can't remember. It was. No, we weren't necessarily coming up with anything great, and this just happened to be the best thing. And for him, I think it was more literal, and I think that's honestly kind of why the podcast split up slightly, was because I was interested in talking about anything, like when it comes to movies, politics, science, nature, exercise, mental health, and Noah was like more down to talk about basically just exercise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's gonna be so boring so quickly, especially considering it's like if we do ever get a camera, it's obviously like you're the exercise freak, I'm not near as much, and it's just like what are you gonna talk about when it comes to exercise only every week? Like there's people that do it, but those are people that are like physical, like personal trainers or bodybuilders or stuff like that. It's like, yeah, of course they can come up with shit. Like that is literally their life.
All right.
And so mine was more hypothetical in the sense of like, or metaphorical in the sense of like barbells, when it just comes to like exercise and fitness and that kind of stuff, which I love and I love to be a part of and do. And then like trails in the sense of like life's journey and like trying to figure out your own path and just like that kind of shit. Because I also see this as for anybody that possibly listens that's our age, a young 20-year-old male can listen to two dudes talking about shit they're dealing with or stuff they're going through as we also transition into I guess adulthood. Like, I mean, I'm here, but at the same time it's like I don't think anybody truly ever grows up, and it's just kind of figuring out how to live with those changes. Because I mean, you haven't been out of high school long, but like life isn't much different.
Yeah, life definitely comes at you fast.
It does, but
definitely does. But then again, it's just like
life in general is almost high school on steroids. Like that's all it is. You don't realize it because I mean, I feel like I was the kid that was like, oh, life is like it's gonna be so different once I'm outside of high school.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like
I was
everybody
when I was in school, I was like, I just want to be done. I want to be done with this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yes and no, because school was fun, like in a sense, but
yeah, that's true. Simple.
Yeah, but it was simple. Like you get there at 7 a.m, get done at 3.
Yep.
And
then you gotta do homework.
Homework.
Yeah. Other than that, you're good.
Video games after that, but like life is just like
there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, it really is.
But at the same time, it's like when I first my first job outside of high school, I was a barista and worked at a coffee shop. And the thing is, like, I was working with a bunch of high school students. So I didn't necessarily get that real feel of life. Like, I mean, I definitely got some more experience in certain things that I didn't have previously. Like, my manager was on house arrest and an ex-addict.
Oh, really?
I didn't like know. Shit like that. So, like, never been around that before. Like, certain stuff. But other than that, I was like, shit, once I actually got to, like, my first official full-time job and stuff, like, I'm sitting there, like, there's still so much drama, politics, and gossip, and all this stuff. I was like, this is, and it could just possibly be slightly where I work too. I mean, it might be, but it's like, this is just high school. Like honestly, I was like, this is, and I'm sitting there looking at it as a 19-year-old. I'm like, I thought shit was gonna be different, and you motherfuckers are between the ages of 25 and basically older. Like, I'm one of the youngest people in the company, and I'm like, this is some childish shit. I did not think this is how like a work life was gonna kind of be like in certain instances.
When I worked at Hops, everybody's just like a 17 teenager, like, girl, because it's all drama. Everything's drama there.
Yeah.
And
you don't realize it. You think once you get out of high school, you're leaving that shit behind.
Dude, it was bad at Hops. But, like, where I work right now, USIC, I'm low enough in the company that, like, I don't hear about anything yet. But I've talked with my squad leader and everything. He's just like, once you get to where I'm at, you're gonna hear all the politics and all that. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But no. So there's little things we plan on kind of changing.
Yeah.
And hopefully making little adjustments, making it a little better. Maybe actually having, like, themed episodes more again, stuff like that.
That would be fun.
Or, like, topic episodes where we focus on a specific thing.
I mean, Halloween is coming up.
It is coming up. Yeah, last year was a pain in the ass to do that episode.
Yeah, well, I kind of ditched on that last second. It was kind of my fault.
Oh yeah, you were supposed to come.
I was, and then
I forgot about that.
Oh, I had to go camping.
Yeah, so if you are possibly a new listener, just go back and take a look. I basically did a solo podcast skit where I acted as both Machine Gun Kelly and Post Malone because I had costumes, and I think it was late by the time I got done doing the recordings because it's like I basically had to record everything in one situation, kind of space it out to make sense as if I was having a conversation, kind of remember what I did so I know kind of how to respond as this is the second person, and then change clothes, do that, and then record basically reactions and add stuff, and then edit it all together. It was a pain in the ass, and it might have turned out kind of stupid, but it was at least kind of fun. Yeah, it was kind of fun to do. And I look goofy as shit in both outfits.
Post Malone was the worst, dude.
Yeah, well, the wig did not work. Like, his hair is not like that, but
I have an afro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. When I looked it up, though, that's all that came up, and I was like,
really?
Yeah, that's why I was like, sure. Like, I mean, I have blonde hair, so it's like I have to put something on.
Right.
Like, I couldn't just leave it and he's not bald. I can't do like a bald cat. Like, I don't know. Like, there's not, like, I feel like it'd be fun to even, like, have you ever seen Joe Rogan, when he does an episode with shoot, I'm blanking on his name. No, I almost said Danny Duncan. It's not Danny Duncan. Isn't it Duncan Trussell? He's a comedian, but it's the episode with him in particular. It's always just him. They dress up in something. Like, one time they were astronauts.
Him and Joe.
Yeah, one time they were like, I think he was like a Revolutionary War patriot. They had like powdered wigs and shit. Another time they were furries. They were wearing furry outfits. Another time they were wearing like old plague masks, and like we're wearing like black hoods and shit, and had it just lit up by candles and shit, like making it look real like ominous and spooky and all that shit. And like the one with the furry mask and the one with like the COVID mask, they just start the podcast with the masks on, so it's like muffled as shit. And then eventually they're like, "I'm dying. Can we take this off?" And then they take it off, and they just go on. Those are probably some of my favorite episodes, just because it gets so like ridiculous. Because Duncan is like very, in a way, kind of like me, and I think that's why I like it. Is like this happened at work the other day. I got on a topic of like, what was it? It was sociology, psychology, and like philosophy, like all wrapped in together on like this one topic. I can't quite pinpoint what it was that got us rolling on it, and I just started spitballing and throwing stuff out. And I love like almost theoretical hypothetical thought. Like I love that kind of shit. And I even told Brian, which you met this weekend, I was like, if I did anything where I went to school and I wanted to major in anything, it 100% would have been psychology, philosophy, and like sociology, like that kind of shit. Love it. Like it's so much fun. I love like questioning shit. And it's very similar to like one of the things in Shameless, which we were just talking about, is like one of the classes they talk about is like, oh, what is this? Critical theory. And she's like, explain it. And he's like, basically, you question everything. Like basically everything's bullshit. Everything's both right and not right. And you basically just have to question everything when it comes to reality and society and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I kind of love that kind of shit. Like I love hypotheticals. I love trying to put myself in other people's shoes and like really try to understand. Like we got on the topic of, what was it? This is how it got started. We got on the topic of cheating. And so we started talking about that. And they were like, cheating is wrong. And I'm like, yes, I agree. But I was like, I feel like situationally, scenarios can not be flipped, but at least in the circumstances with certain people, maybe I can at least have sympathy for the people cheating and understand why.
It depends on the situation.
Yeah, like if someone's in an abusive relationship and they don't know how to get out of it, and then someone finally gives them comfort and safety that they need, and they end up falling for this person and let's say having sex with them. And some people are like, well, they're still assholes because they cheated. They should just leave the situation. But it's like, I can't judge someone like on that status.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
it's so I actually got in a discussion with my buddies because I did dual credits at AU.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the same way as you. And he was just like, how did he put it? He was just like, if a woman, we were talking about abortion.
Okay.
And he was talking about like, do you think abortion's wrong? I'm like, yeah. And he was like, so what if a woman got raped and had the baby?
Yeah, that's typically the hypothetical that gets.
No, I was just like, and then that just like made me think. I was like, oh shoot, yeah. You're right. That's
like, I mean, there's that's the big argument. Yeah. Is like, the thing is I don't think I could say, because I don't think everything is black and white. I don't think that for a lot of shit, depending on situations, it's a yes or no. Like when it comes to abortion, I don't fully agree with it, but like situationally, I understand. And at the same time, I understand people want to make their own decisions. And it's like, you can't also deny someone that either, because then it's like, okay, well, what else can be challenged? It's also like this similar thing with comedy. It's like, if you start limiting what people can talk about in a comedic fashion, you're already like losing the part of what free speech and freedom is. And it's having the choice to talk about anything. And so, yeah, the thing for me where it gets dicey is like late term shit. And that's where it's like really like, oh, that's fucked up. Because it's like, there's a baby. Like, oh, yeah. Like, I mean, because some places allow third trimester. And it's like, yeah, that's a child. It's there. So, like, it's right on the edge of it.
I saw this video. It was so messed up. It was like some youth pastor that went over to like Africa or somewhere, and he was a child molester. I found out. I'm like, what in the world? He started posting on the dark web and all that. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
this world, like,
yeah, there's some fucked up shit.
Oh my gosh, like, people just. I don't get people sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
But yeah, so like that was the hypothetical, at least on the cheating thing, because it's like, okay, like I can't, in most situations, not saying all, but most situations, it's probably the woman that's being abused in a domestic violence situation. And it's like, I've never been in that situation because I'm not a woman, where there's just naturally someone that's going to overpower me easily.
Right.
And I'm scared for my own life. And it's like, if you're in that long enough, how fucked up am I going to be like physically and mentally in that situation, like where I'm almost beaten into submission, where it's like it's almost like when someone is abused in prison, or a prisoner of war gets so fucked up that they almost have a psychological break, where they can't almost unsee reality, where they don't see that there's a way out, and that they can't escape, and where you just like, you don't know what the situation those people are put in.
People are just, it's definitely just like, I mean, people are going to do what they want to do.
So, but that's the thing is like, if there's two different situations where it's like, if in that situation I can let it slide, but it's if you also got the situation of like a woman with a husband that like she's a stay-at-home mom, the husband makes $150,000+ a year, they got a nice house, they got 4 kids, he basically pays for everything, they go on vacations, pretty kick-ass marriage and whatever. And then she goes cheats, it's a whole different story. Like that one, it's like, she could be like, oh well, he's not giving me attention, he's not showing me affection, he's busy all the time. Okay, fucking talk to him. All I can ask.
Either talk to him or just straight up just leave him. If you really
it's like
feel that way,
if you feel like you're being unappreciated,
I'm saying talk to him first.
Yes.
I'm not saying just straight up leave him, but like talk to him, and if it still doesn't work out, leave him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, but if that's all you're gonna base your marriage about is just sex and all that, it's just like I know it's just a messed up marriage. I'm just like, that's not what marriage is.
No, and that's the thing me and my sisters even talked about before, is like, she's like, oh, I think it's crazy that guys might look at a girl based on attraction first.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, you can't tell me a girl looks at a guy and their first question is, I wonder what his politics are, or I wonder what he would do. Like it's not 100% personality. I was like, for most people, the first possible barrier to get closer to something that's meaningful in a relationship or marriage down the line, it's not a spectrum, but like it's a process, and you got to unlock all these doors slowly but surely, depending on whatever hits a boat, and then you're like, okay, cool, marriage.
Right.
Sometimes some people skip doors, and that's probably the ones that end up divorced. But
sometimes,
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the first one is 100% the easiest, and off the bat, it's like, am I attracted to this person? And it's as simple as, do I think they're hot? Would I like? It's almost. It's not vague. I don't know. Vague's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like that's almost the first thing is like, am I attracted to them? Do I find them attractive? That's the first thing you think, and then from there, it's like, oh, maybe I want to go strike up a conversation and go from there.
Right.
And then some people might stop at the attraction, sleep with them, that's it. But then there's other people that are gonna keep going. Like that's also the thing where people are like, oh, men are so players, but it's like,
that's why
it's probably the 1% of men that do that, where 90% of the other men would never. But at the same time, they're maybe not making the first move, they're not doing whatever, and that's why like the women are seeing the worst 5% of men, and so they think that's how all men are. And it's like, no, you're not even looking at the rest of the population of the guy that's like being polite, holding the door open for you, doing all this stuff. Your immediate thing you're seeing is like, you're paying attention to the minority in that sense. Like,
right.
I mean, most guys aren't like that.
Yeah, it's just, I don't even know how to say it in words, but it's definitely, I don't know if that would be it's definitely the perspective.
Yeah.
Like, it's either the
perspective's such a big deal.
Yeah. Like, yes, women would say all men want to do is just, sleep with them.
Yeah.
And I would probably say, yeah, probably about.
I could guarantee that every man, it's in their head. Like, it's there. It might be in the back of their mind, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's every man's motivation.
I wouldn't say it's every man, but yeah.
I think it's there for every guy, but that doesn't mean people that's what they're like chasing, Like it's probably there. Like I wouldn't say that there's a guy that doesn't have an attraction to this girl, that went on an amazing date, like actually has feelings for this girl, or there's other stuff there where in the back of his head he's not like, I would love to sleep with her, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's gonna pursue it. Maybe he's gonna hold back. He's gonna wait for a few dates. He wants to get to know her better.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that's not there.
At it. Like, you don't just skip all that.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, it's definitely just like high school. It's just like you see a cute girl across the classroom and just like,
you gotta start.
I want to talk to her.
Yeah, you gotta start somehow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing me and Brian talked about. It's like, I feel like most people nowadays don't set boundaries or just don't talk. Like, that's the worst thing. It's like, I've seen so many shitty relationships that for me, it's just communication. It's like, if you get that, you're going to get through most of it. Right. And it's like, as long as you can talk.
Communication is key in a relationship. Any kind of relationship, even if it's just a friendship or a relationship with a guy and a girl.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, the thing I told Brian the other day is, like, whenever I end up in a relationship with some chick, one of the first things I'm immediately going to be like, in whatever situation, is I can guarantee you right now, I will not fucking cheat on you. It's not me. Never going to happen.
I don't never do such a thing either.
It's like, doesn't mean I won't be talkative and maybe seem flirty, whatever. That's probably happening. That's just my personality. Is like, I'm reasonably open. I'm naturally a touchy person. I will, like, joke with people, fuck around with people. I'll give shit. Doesn't matter, gender, whatever, anybody. But it's like, that doesn't mean anything, and I would never cross that line.
I'm not just
that's
saying
one thing I can
this is
guarantee.
all what women do, because I bet men do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But like, when your other half or your spouse, I guess, like, you see them flirting or something and you get jealous, I feel like that's just like, are you serious? I mean, maybe they'll be like flirty, but they're not really flirting with some person.
And I think the thing that makes
cheat on you
guys upset is, I think, and I feel like this would be me, is I don't know if I'd be a jealous guy. I mean, it's there for everybody. Everybody has that, where there's going to be one situation where they're just like, I hate this.
Yes. Well, like, just like missing somebody, and you're like, well, they're with them, but I can't.
Yeah, like, they're just little shit like that.
Yeah.
But like, my thing is like, I wouldn't be upset if a girl's talking to some guy or something. If they're going out. My whole thing is, in most situations, hopefully the girl I'm with, I'm not necessarily worried about possibly not trusting her. It's more, I know the nature of some guys, and I understand what runs through a man's head. Not saying that, like we talked, men act on things.
I mean, I know every man.
I know a man can be manipulative, and I know that there are guys that will try getting in a girl's pants, no matter what. It's like, it's not that I trust you. It's called, I don't trust the other guys around you that you might run into.
Right. I mean, like, yes, a relationship, trust goes both ways. Yeah. But
that's true.
Also, trust is not just two people. It's people all around you. So,
and also, I feel like the thing is that, so I've had these discussions with, like, my younger cousin. She's like 16, so she's very 16 and definitely Gen Z like a motherfucker. But at the same time, we've had, like, some interesting debates about shit like this. And my whole thing is, like, one thing you also got to think about is, most of the time, a guy is not going to be, even if he's a good looking guy, if he goes out, he's not necessarily going to be pursued by other women. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. Not saying it doesn't, but most of the time, if there's a girl out, it'll be guys pursuing the girl. So it's like, if you got a girlfriend that's out somewhere in public, you're not around, whatever, like, it's whatever. If I do it, it's way different, because how many women might come after me necessarily, where it's like a guy trying to hit on and pursue a girl is a way more likely, like, possibility.
Right.
And so it's like, that's something you got to think about. And part of it isn't necessarily like when a guy's like, oh, maybe I don't want you to go out with your friends, or I don't want you wearing that. It has nothing to do with, like, them not trusting you. I would say 9 times out of 10, or at least for me personally, if that would ever pop up, it's almost a mutual respect. Because it's like, not that I don't think you're beautiful and I don't want you to kind of show off, but since you're with a guy, you're with me, you don't need to go, like, advertise, you know, like, it's like,
right. I mean, so,
like, there's a difference between looking good and then, like, being overly
showing people you look good.
Exactly.
So, like, say my girlfriend is talking with a guy, that's totally fine, I think. if nothing like concludes and goes further. But like they go on a date or something, even if like you say
if it's 2 people that went out, it'd be like what? If it's a group of friends and they're there,
a group of friends, I'm totally fine. But like even if they're like, he's my best friend, he's been my best friend for like 7 years, let me just get to know him first. Let's just have a main
guys
date
can
first.
See through the bullshit so much easier. And I don't know why.
And
you know what? I think it's literally a guy-girl thing. Because some girls will be like, they might tell their boyfriend, she's fucking into you. And you're like, nah. And they're like, no, she is. Where the same thing happens with the guy, where it's like, oh, I know what he wants.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't see it. He's just nice.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like,
not me being overprotective.
Yeah.
That's just me being just
I think
wise.
I think the whole reason why that happens, and it's hard to see from the other side, is because as the male gender and as a female gender, we understand how a guy or girl's brain, vice versa, depending on the situation, works better than the other gender would. So like we can read situations and be like, I can tell by his body like language, how he's talking, how he's talking to you. I can tell you right now, this is what he's
even
trying to
if how he's looking at you. Like even what your eyes do, you can just tell.
Like one thing I even told my cousin was, she was like, well, what if I want to look nice and I'm flaunting it, whatever, and I want guys to notice me because I want people to know that they can't have me and I'm with my man. And I'm like, well, that's fair, but that also puts up with a lot of bullshit for the guy.
That's just
like it's causing more issues than it might be worth.
Yeah.
Like, what if you go out and a guy pursues you and they won't let off?
What
and
if
then
your
your boyfriend has to deal with that shit?
Or what if your boyfriend's just not there with you? What if he went to the bathroom?
Yeah. Or I even said, I was like, for some girls, I don't think women realize that they don't have to flaunt it. Like, I was like, you could put a girl in a sweatpants and hoodie, and if she's fucking beautiful, every guy in the room will fucking notice it. It's like, you don't got to show off. Like, guys pick up on this shit. Like, girls, I think that a guy only works on those other situations and senses when it comes to their body. But it's like, in all reality, a guy doesn't need any of that to be like, oh yeah, she's
have you seen like those videos of like the airport crushes and stuff?
Oh yeah.
So like,
bro, I want to live in an airport.
That's what I mean, dude.
I haven't even
like,
traveled
I keep
that
seeing
much.
like these videos of like these girls.
Yes.
These girls are like, I'm so ready to go to the airport just so I could have a crush on somebody, or somebody have a crush on me.
Bro.
Like, dude, you
but I've been there and I understand it.
Yes.
Like, so I haven't traveled much. The only times I've traveled across country was to hang out with Noah.
Right.
And when I did those things, I'm literally sitting in airports and I'm like, there are so many like beautiful women. I was like,
your
holy
age
shit.
too, and you're just like, what in the world?
What is going on right now?
Yes.
And I'm
But
like, I need to go to the airport.
They're the ones that just walk by and you don't see them.
You're just sitting there and you're just like, damn. And the thing is like, also, it's like, oh, you might want to pursue it, but at the same time, it's like, you're in an airport. You have no clue where these people are from. Especially, like, imagine if you're in an international wing. Shit, you're fucked.
You could be, like, from France.
Yeah, right? So, it's like, I don't know what to tell you.
You try to talk somebody, totally different language.
That could happen. Yeah, exactly. So, it is kind of funky, but yeah, it's fun. I love, like, that's the thing. I love, like, looking at different people's perspectives. It's a good time.
Yeah, like, I don't travel much, but I definitely want to. Not just for that fashion, but like
just for that fact, I'm going to the airport. Like, you're like, I'm just gonna sit. Like, you're like, I'm gonna go not past security. I'm just gonna sit in there.
I want to have a 9-hour layover.
You're just gonna sit there, eat overpriced McDonald's, and just wait on women walking through. And you're like, saying this here.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We're definitely just going off the books of what we just said.
Yeah, true. But like I said, like, also there's so many, like, intrusive thoughts are 100% a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know right now that there would definitely be a situation where as a human being, as a guy, I could kill somebody. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but not saying it's not there.
It's just like
I think that's one thing I don't think women realize.
What's scary though?
What?
Like, you could actually kill somebody so easily.
Oh, yeah. It's not that hard. It's not. It really isn't. Like, people die from one punch.
Yeah.
And part of it is them getting knocked out and smacking their head on concrete. There's many people probably in jail right now because of that situation. Some of them being bouncers, and people have accidentally socked someone, hit the fucking pavement, dead. and they got criminal charges.
I honestly thought I killed Noah once. Did I tell you about that? We were wrestling once.
Okay.
And it's at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
And we came, and I hit the like very top, like one of the last steps at the top of the stairs.
Okay. Yeah.
I come at Noah, and I went to jump on him, but I come for his legs.
Oh, okay.
And he fell down, hit his head, and he got up and started at me. So I got a headlock. Dude, he blacked out for like 15 seconds. I was like, oh shoot. I was like, Noah? While my mom's yelling upstairs, she's like, stop wrestling, guys.
Noah's just laying there.
I'm like, Noah, wake up. Noah.
Noah's just boom, out. I mean, well, Noah's also told me that that Nathan hit him with a hammer as a kid too.
Yeah, he did because Noah's the dummy, and Nathan's hitting like rocks. You know what you do when you're little kids.
Yeah.
And
you
you just
don't just smashing shit.
Well, it was like a double-sided hammer.
Noah's still behind.
Noah was walking behind him.
Oh, okay.
And go bam.
I don't think Noah filled me in on that detail, so it's not as
Well,
bad.
they hanged me upside down when I was younger too.
Well, shit, I knocked Bailey. I didn't knock her out. I knocked her on her ass one time swinging as a kid. Bailey was 2. So they're all swinging sets. So I'm like 5, 6. I'm just chilling, just fucking swinging. And I literally see her. She's walking, and she walks behind me. And I'm like, there's no stopping it. And she perfectly walks and just gets fucking laid out by my ass. Just knocked her. Not flat on the ground. and then she's just... it's like... I mean, you did that.
Right.
Like, there's nothing I could do there.
What they did to me was, like, they literally got duct tape. They hanged me upside down. Oh. My head's this way.
Oh.
And they duct taped me to a tree.
Oh, nice.
And they went inside to eat lunch. And my mom actually...
She eventually came out and was like, Riley, what are you doing?
Well, they asked Nathan and Noah, like, so where's Riley? They're like, oh, well, I don't know. We haven't seen him.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh.
Wow. So... I mean, okay, so speaking of, I guess, injuries. You ever get the wind knocked out of you?
Yes.
Yeah. I've had it happen to me twice.
It's happened to me a dozen times.
Well, you have brothers. Me.
Not just that. I play sports too.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
Like
I can recall 2 really good ones, and it was like.
Even in like setting a pick in basketball and getting hit in the chest, like, oh shoot.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah,
oof.
I get what you're saying. So mine at one point was, oh man, I can't remember. I was maybe 7, and we were at this park in Arcadia, and I'm in the handicap chair, like swing.
Oh.
Like no one else was there, and my dad's pushing, and he just pushes real hard.
Oh no.
And he just tosses me the fuck out of the.
Wait, did you just skyrocketed?
Pretty much, and I just land flat on my back, and it's just dying, and my dad and sister's laughing, and I'm just bawling, and I'm like, "What?"
Where your dad didn't even care?
No, well, he did, but he's laughing because it's funny. I was like, I still give him shit because I'm like, I'm not saying it's not funny because it probably is. I'm not denying that shit. I've seen kids get hurt. It can be fucking hilarious, but keep the composure. You're the parent. Keep the composure. Bailey can laugh. It's still rude as shit, but like come on. Like I was in pain. Like it wasn't fun. Like don't laugh afterwards. Like wait until I'm away from you and then just fucking burst out. Like
have you seen those videos too? Like it's like just being a friend versus being a best friend. And like
maybe.
if something happens, like you fall, like you trip, and the friend's like, "Oh, you okay?" But your best friend just laughs at you and just watches you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's totally right.
Yeah. Well, so the other time was I was hanging on a tree branch. Not necessarily on a super big tree, but not a small branch either. This motherfucker snaps while I'm hanging on it. And so I'm not like super high up. Like I might be 2 feet off the ground from my feet. Oh. But it snaps.
Still enough.
My legs fly out from under me. Slam perfectly on my back, and then the branch lands on my chest and just knocks everything out of me. And I'm just like, just dying.
You're like, am I dead yet?
Yeah, like, and just, But my dad's friends there, they're fucking both dying laughing at me because I can't remember how old I was at this point. Like I was maybe 10, but it just immediately you're just gone. You're just like just your lungs just shut off for a second.
Yeah,
like got to reboot.
It's it's a weird feeling. Yeah, it really is.
It's so hard to explain, and the first time it happens to you is scary as shit.
It is
because you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Well, your body's just so.
But it makes sense.
Your
though.
body's
it really does.
so used to just breathing,
and always having air in your system.
You never think of just like what happens if you just lose your breath for like 5 seconds.
Well, the thing is it's so crazy. It's simple and it makes sense, but it's basically you're having an impact. So there's air in your lungs, but because of whatever impact, it just forced it out. Like it literally squeezed your lungs for you and just shot everything out. And so there's nothing there. It wasn't the part of your typical like natural breathing rhythm. So it just shocks the body because it's like, what the fuck just happened?
Most likely you get scared and you breathe in really fast, and then you hit and everything comes out.
Yeah. So it's not fun. But the first time when it happens to a kid, it's like they just it is scary because you don't know what the fuck just happened.
Right. Because have you ever had a concussion?
No.
I've had actually 2.
So. I mean,
the first instance I had my concussion was we had we were camping, so it was at some campground. I don't know where it was at.
Yeah.
But me and Evan were racing, being little kids on bikes, and I decided to cut through a yard, and little did I know there was a ditch, like not that big of a ditch. It was probably like this big, so it was just a big hole. My tire got in there, and I went face first.
Oh,
head first.
Oh, nice.
Dude, I don't even know, like how to explain it, but like you woke up dizzy, nauseous, and just wanted to fall asleep. Okay. The thing is, if you sleep on concussion,
no, that's false, right?
Way worse. No, it is actually because I fell asleep on concussion. And like
I heard that was a myth.
Really?
Yeah.
No, because the second time I did.
I think there is something to it, but
I guess it depends how bad of a hit you get to your head. But
I don't think I've ever really had any major head traumas.
Yeah, I mean, just the first time I did fall asleep, and I don't even know, like a few hours I woke up, dude. I felt terrible. Like my head was
brain trauma.
Yeah, I was like my head hurt. Like the second time, like an hour went by. Well, and I didn't fall asleep like the second time, and I was fine. So I guess it would depend how bad of a hit you would have.
True.
So.
Well, like of what's it called? Damn it. Brain trauma that typically happens to football players. What's it called? CCP? No.
Concussion.
Well, no, there's a certain thing where it's basically like continual head trauma, but it causes.
I forget what it's called.
Well, I know what you mean. It's high in boxers and football players,
and hockey.
CTE. I think that's what it is.
Maybe.
And the thing is like you can get that reasonably easy because I mean your brain is like your skull's not like it's hollow. Like there's room in there. Your shit moves around, so. Like, you can get it from riding a jet ski. Like, you can have brain damage.
Just like going up and down, like 60 mile an hour. Like, even in your car, you could.
Yeah, no, 100%. Or, like, horse riding. Like, there's little things that over time you wouldn't realize it. And the funny thing is like, okay, you might not have a concussion from it, but you can slowly but surely develop, like, brain damage where it can actually affect your personality. Yeah. That's where it's, like, crazy when it comes to, what are those studies? Like magnet therapy, like that's actually a thing, and it's supposed to help, like basically your brain get back to its full potential. Like that's interesting. Like there's more being done with it, but I can't remember. There's one person in particular, Joe Rogan was talking about one time, and this lady got knocked the fuck out. Like UFC fighter, fucked up her shit bad. Like her brain was so thrown off that her hormones weren't going correctly. She started gaining weight. She lost, like her hormones were all fucked. She gained weight. She lost some motor function and speech function. Ended up having to like do that therapy. Did it? Fixed everything. Like knocked it back to normal.
Magnet?
Yeah.
Therapy.
Yeah. I don't totally know how it works, but I know it is the thing when it comes to like
Wonder how that would work with your brain though, but
I don't totally know.
That is interesting.
Yeah, like there's that, and there's other shit too. Like psilocybin's supposed to be one, which is like mushrooms. It's literally known to help with like neural regeneration, which is nothing else. Really no other. I don't think there's any other compound that I'm aware of that can do that, but mushrooms can. And basically, and like that's there's like some weird studies with like psychedelics that, because once you turn 25, it's a pain in the ass for your brain to develop new neurons and pathways. That's why like once you get to a certain point, it's harder to learn new languages. It's harder to learn new skills.
Yep.
It's harder to do shit like that. And not saying you can't, it just makes it more difficult. And your brain's not as neuroplasticity. Like it's not as malleable.
I guess it depends on the person, but I feel like the older you get, the more of a, I guess, OCD you are, kind of. Like,
and I think it's because once you get to a certain point, you get set in your ways. Yeah, and it's hard to change.
Because, like, let's say you want to learn a new language.
Yeah.
And then you're on your computer looking at a language, and then you're like, oh, I forgot to do this. And then, like, 2 hours go by, and totally just totally forget.
I think that's ADHD, but...
Okay, ADHD, too, yeah.
Yeah. But so there has been studies that have showed that, like, some psychedelics basically helps your brain become more malleable to possibly learn stuff, reconnect things. That's why it like helps with like PTSD, and there's certain things basically because it just helps the brain kind of rebuild itself. Like the brain is pretty fucking wild. Like, I mean, do you kind of know the history of like lobotomies? Like, do you know what that is? It was an old treatment that was done basically probably from 1930s to the 60s maybe. Basically a thing they did to people that had mental illnesses to basically make them vegetables. They would basically, and the guy that did this was a psychologist, not even a neurosurgeon, not a neurologist, nothing. Didn't study the brain. And he was the one that came up with this.
He didn't even care, did he?
So, this was still the time where they thought that mental illness was connected to a physical ailment. And so they believed that, this certain part of the brain controls these functions. This is why you're fucked up. And so the first thing he did, this is the first way he did it, was he basically took a little drill and just drilled basically a cork hole inside the brain and just took out a few cores.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then eventually, when people stopped having reactions, emotions to pain, like all this stuff, and just kind of went dead in the face, he was like, oh, figured it out. Done. Cool.
No.
But basically, the whole point was, so like for people with schizophrenia, with people with like very bad mental illnesses, we'll just make it where they can't talk. They can't basically be functioning.
That's terrible.
And eventually they made it where it was a simple procedure where they take, what was it? Basically a little metal chisel and a hammer, broke the orbital bone right in here, and then they take an ice pick and then just stick it in and go, and just fuck that up.
Please tell me the guy.
Nope.
Nothing happened to him.
No, there's probably been I think it's like 200,000 procedures done in 40 years.
Dude, that just hurts
it's
my head. Just thinking,
up.
Oh my gosh.
And so they would do this in like asylums because like for really bad patients. Yeah. Basically, so they weren't. It was basically a physical form of sedation. Basically, they just fucked their brain up, did enough damage where they couldn't function normally.
It just messed up people that were already messed up. They just messed them up more. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, well, they did and didn't, because the whole thing was like, well, we're gonna make them where they're alive, but they're not functioning, so they're not a problem. And
that's not right.
Oh no, it's very fucked up, and that's why the whole it happened to JFK's sister. Like one of JFK's sisters was lobotomized in the 40s, I think. Like weird shit. But there was this one story of this kid. I think he was 11, and the stepmom pursued it because he was basically being a teenage boy, being rambunctious, not listening, like rowdy, like aggressive, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And so they said, oh, there's problems, we want to get a lobotomy. Ended up convincing the dad to do so, did it to him. And at one point, this guy would basically do lobotomies almost as a performance. Like he would go places and then do them in front of audiences. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And the thing is, so they did this to this child, but he was so young, his brain was so young that it was actually able to heal itself and rewire, where now he's completely normal. Like
Is
nothing
he
wrong.
still alive?
Yeah. Well, now maybe. Well,
when was
maybe because this would have been 50s or 60s. So I mean, he's older, but
that's an interesting story to just have.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So basically, his brain was still so young that it still had 10 plus years to rewire itself, where he was able to basically live a normal life. Like he doesn't have any issues.
I mean, it makes sense.
Where it's like everybody else, because most of them were adults. It's like once it's done, you're probably you're done.
That's messed
Like
up.
I don't know. I've never actually seen the movie, but you know the movie Shutter Island. Is that what it's called? With Leonardo DiCaprio.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know.
That's part of the end of the movie where they're like, basically we're trying to see if this would work, kind of get you out of your psychosis, whatever. If not, it's up to you. We're gonna tell you, but lobotomy is an option, and because this was supposed to be like the 50s or something or 40s, and he ended up, I think, choosing to do it because he didn't want to deal with the shit.
Honestly,
it was crazy.
This stuff that they thought back then, that
it's wild.
That they
That's
thought
why when people
to resolve a problem and just escalated that problem even more.
I mean, that's why when like people complain about shit nowadays, it's like, there's not a risk of you being lobotomized or like having electroshock therapy. Like that is a thing now, but it's dialed down from what it was 60 years ago. Like there's an actual science behind it, and back then they used a lot of electricity. Now it's like, yeah, it's just little shit, like little pulses, whatever, help basically not rewire, but help your neurocircuitry. Right. Like it's an actual science now, but it's like, yeah, back in the day it was just like, let's see what happens. Like, I mean, even nowadays it's like thinking about it, like Craig, someone I don't think I've met, but had his appendix removed 2 years ago, had to leave work early, didn't know it, his appendix about ruptured, he got lucky.
Oh my gosh. Wait, he works with you?
Not anymore, but he did. And he showed me his scar from the surgery. It's literally like a fucking bruise, little pinhole that they went through in the side of the belly button. Like one over here. That was it. Little pokes. And the rest of it they did. Super non-invasive. Whereas like back in the day, if you had your appendix removed, you're getting sliced the fuck open and they're removing it and having a big old scar through the side.
The scary thought is half the time you'll want to be knocked out back then. Because I want to have all that.
Well, I'm even saying in the 80s.
Okay, in 80s. Okay,
and so the whole situation, like the recovery would be harder, the likelihood of infections a lot higher, and I mean there was still recovery time where they were like, oh yeah, like this is a big deal. You did technically just have shit removed from the inside of your body, like so it's like, okay, don't lift stuff, but like imagine being completely flailed and then having like filleted like a fish and then having a giant scar from them removing your appendix, and now it's 2 little dots. And then once it heals, you probably won't even know.
Right. I mean, my mom, she had surgery. Yeah. She has a metal rod and stuff. She has a big scar from here to, I think it's from here to here or something.
I don't think I ever noticed.
Yeah. Well, she has a cast on.
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't know she had a rod in there.
Yeah, she did. Oh. She had a big rod and she had 8 screws.
Oh.
Yeah, dude, she broke all the bones all right here because she fell down on that side. No, it's the right hand. Not left hand.
Still.
But yeah.
Like I knew she broke her arm, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Dude, it's bad. It was bad.
Like I'm guessing multiple breaks. I'm guessing it wasn't a clean.
2 breaks, but it was 2 bones from here.
Well, yeah,
all the way
there's
to
there's 2 bones in the forearm. So that makes sense.
But it was connected to the wrist and all that, and it was bad because she fell. She had clip-in shoes to her bike.
Oh.
And a truck ran a 4-way stop while they were crossing a road.
Okay.
Well,
so she just swerved and lost her balance.
She swerved to jump, and she couldn't get her foot out, so she just fell down on a curve. It's either her arm or her whole body.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Lucky she's alive though. So.
That's pretty wild. I didn't think it. Yeah, I didn't know she had that done. But.
Yeah. Well, she didn't even know it was broke. She just knew she did something.
Oh.
And she saw like a nursing home that one of her people that she cleaned for. Mm-hmm. That's where she was for like 12 years or something before she died. She was like, "Oh, I know that place. So let's just take me there," because they were like 8 miles away from the truck. Mm-hmm. They were on a trail. Yeah. So my dad had to take my mom and her bike to the nursing home, and then bike all the way back, get the truck to actually get her to take her to a hospital. Oh. And like while she was at the nursing home, like 2 people came by. He's like, "Oh, that's broken," like just to her face, and it's just like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, I mean, we had someone at work recently. Well, this year had a tractor hood fall on their forearm, pin them, and it could have been a lot worse, but he still wasn't great. He ended up getting out, like was able to. He had his phone on him. He called the farmer. The farmer wasn't around, but the neighbor heard him and came over. Thank God, he must have been close enough, because you never know out here, like depending on where you're at.
Right.
Like if you're at a farm,
it could be days into.
So you don't know, like if anyone's getting.
Wait, who is it?
It was a technician, and
because I heard, what's his name? I don't know. It was somebody related to Paul.
Oh. No.
But he like literally decapitated himself.
Yeah, not that. No.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he did that. Guy got there. They went home. Went to the ER, I think, or somewhere, and they turned him away and was like, "No, you're fine. No, it's not that big a deal. Whatever." Went home. Wasn't feeling great. Whatever. I think his fiance or girlfriend's a nurse. Noticed like, oh yeah, this isn't good. We're going back to the hospital. Went to the hospital. Turns out he had internal bleeding and fractured, I think, both of his bones.
How do they not pick that up, though?
I don't know. But
did they not get x-rays?
I don't think so. Not initially. Like, I don't know what all they did, but I think they kind of were just like, no, you're okay. And it's like, if you don't know what he was working on, like, those doors are not heavy. Or not heavy. Not light. And they fall on their own even if you try to slow them down. It was a 4-wheel drive door. So these doors weigh hundreds of pounds.
4-wheel drive.
Like large tractors, like 9,000 series.
Oh my gosh.
And
that fell on him?
Yeah. And so he was just working on something, had his hand in it, and it came down without him realizing and got him. And so it's like, yeah, no, that's a major injury.
Was he
so he had to have
up
him
there with it too and everything?
I don't know exactly where he was in the tractor.
That's quite a fall too.
But so he got in there, and they ended up having to have emergency surgery, like get the blood out, stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And then let alone with the bone and everything. Like, yeah, it was like, he's good. Like, he's back to work. Like, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, lucky, like, it didn't go long enough where, like, could have lost the arm. Like, you never know. Wow. Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But
life is crazy.
Yeah. Like, it get dangerous out there.
It definitely can be.
Yeah. Yeah,
it definitely can be.
No, I mean, I've luckily never done anything too crazy. Well, I mean, I've never had any. I've never had near-death experiences. I've had things where it could have ended up a lot worse. Like, I don't know if I ever told you this. I rolled our 4-wheeler as a kid when I was 9. I finally figured out what drifting was. Oh, no. And so I was in that phase.
Yep.
And so we had an automatic 4-wheeler. So my dad basically would limit us depending on what gear we could go in. So it was like, okay, you're this age, you can only go in 3rd gear. So basically limits even your speed, because at one point you're just high revving it too much, where it's like you're not going any faster. Right. You can only go so fast. And we were at this place. They had grain bins and everything, and a big loop around all the grain bins. So I'd go around the back and drift around that back end. I was doing that, having fun, getting good at it, whatever. And there was one time I don't even know if I changed gears, but I just throttled it way more than I should have. Probably going like 20, 25 miles an hour. Fucking cut it too hard. Came around the corner completely sideways. And not wearing a helmet, never did. Never wearing pads, never wearing gloves, never nothing.
We never. No. We only wore a helmet, so sometimes.
I didn't even do that. And I came around it with such force that the acid came sideways. my legs were flung from the four-wheeler, where I was straight up hanging on by the bars, and then it eventually got to the point where it started tumbling. But somehow I hung on, stayed close enough to it where I never hit the ground as it rolled like 3 times, because there was enough of a gap between the fenders and the seat, because it dips in, that between handlebars and everything, I was like right in that gap. And so I basically walked away. It was upside down by the time it stopped, and I was under it, and I scooted out from under perfectly. Like, it didn't land on me, nothing. And I was able to slide out from under it and get out, and all I did was walk away with some scrapes from the gravel. And like, I could have got flung off of the four-wheeler. I could have, like, it could have rolled, and I could have been in between it and the ground. Like, it could have been a very bad situation. I walked away with like a bruise and a scratch.
Wow.
Like, ridiculous. And
talking about four-wheelers. So,
oh no,
this year, have you seen Evans?
Yes.
The new red one.
Yes.
Well, that thing can go about 50.
Yeah.
60 maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we did a little obstacle course in the woods, and fastest time wins. And Rusty had the fastest time, so we all trying to beat, Well, you know how the trail comes, there's a little kind of grayish barn there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the finish line is after that, where the red coupe is, on the cement pad.
Mm-hmm.
By the white gray shed.
Yeah.
Well, that's the finish line, and we would be going so fast that we had to go like straight up turn this much just to go in that little gap beside the barn and all the trees.
Yeah.
And this little like brick kind of like just
pile.
stuck.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I'm coming, and I'm booking it because I feel like I'm going to beat the time. And I did not turn because, like, I'm going straight at the barn. And I turned it just enough that the back left wheel nicked the whole tire, like, pile.
Mm-hmm.
The bricks went everywhere. And it toppled, like, 3 times. And
I did not.
I wasn't even wearing a helmet. No, I wasn't wearing a helmet or anything.
And shit, all Noah told me was he said you got tossed off. He didn't say that the four-wheeler like completely flipped.
Yeah, it flipped because I hit the whole brick. It was my back tire.
And it just
so it just
bounced
like
it
literally
up.
flipped me. I went flying like 30 feet, like no kidding, by the wood. And
I know what you're talking about.
I walked around with like a scratch on my leg.
I mean, sometimes that's how it happens. Like,
I was like,
I mean, you get lucky in those situations.
Even if I hit the bricks head on, that could have ended so much worse. So I was just lucky.
Yeah, I know that, and that's the thing. I was lucky that happened because I was like 9 when that happened. I wasn't that old, and the thing was that the whole thing my dad was pissed off about was that my mom was coming that day to pick us up, and he's like, "Great, now I gotta fucking explain this to your mother," and he's like, "Shit,
the one time."
It's like, you had to do it the day she's coming to pick you up. But yeah, it was luckily not a big deal, but it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember there was one time, like, speaking of like childhood stories and fucking around from earlier, like, me and my buddy went, and there's ditches around here all the time. There's this one ditch we were walking and doing stuff, and at one point we're like, oh, there's like a center island, let's go out there. We get out there, whatever, no big deal, we're just hanging out. Like, okay, let's head back. And there's like almost literally like stepping stones made out of dirt, kind of weird, naturally there, to get back. And I take this one, and I don't remember why, but I do it, and I miss, or my foot slips, or it's farther than I thought, and I just immediately all like this was a deeper ditch than I also realized where we were, because I went all the way, didn't touch the bottom, like under, and I just in like holding the ground, and had to just drag my body up.
Was
and
the
get
ditch
up.
full of water?
Oh yeah, like it was like, it wasn't like flooded, but it was. It had a decent current.
How big of a ditch was it? Was it like?
I mean, like,
like on 600, that ditch on the left.
One of those kind of ditches, but where this one was, it was also an actual creek. So like,
okay.
So like, it had constant water, like no matter what. It wasn't like a ditch that was, like gets real low and empty for the most part sometimes. And so we crawled out, and then the next thing I know, I didn't even know it. The other kid fell in at the same time. and so, but somewhere else. So we both get out. We're just fucking coated in water and mud because we had to drag our asses out of it. And we're just like, oh, Jesus. Like, we get back at it. We're both like, oh, our dads are going to be fucking pissed. All this shit. So I remember like us literally being like, oh, we're going to be in so much trouble. And we literally sat next to the road, like on the gravel trying to dry
off.
So it was super obvious, just sitting there like, come on son, bake it, come on, get it out,
come on, 20 minutes, chop.
Yeah, like literally laying there trying to dry off a little bit before we go back because we're just like, fuck, like,
even though you still gonna get yelled at.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't, the thing is I don't think there was necessarily a reason for our parents to be mad. Like, I don't think I had a phone. I didn't have a phone in my pocket,
right.
Like shit like that. But like, just, like parents being like, what the fuck were you doing? Like,
right.
Come on,
being an idiot.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so like, there's just stories like that, but they're always fun.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, like, you've heard the story of when my buddy fell through our barn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard
like
that. That could have.
Another situation could have ended up so badly. Like, honestly,
didn't he
could
miss
have been in a better
the fence
spot,
the pig fence?
Yeah. So
Dude, if he landed on that,
it's hard to explain without like a physical representation. Like, I wish I could draw it. I don't have anything to draw on.
It's all right.
But basically, it's just like a rectangular side of the barn, and we had 3 pins.
Yep.
Rectangular pins and an aisle away in the back. Mm-hmm. And so like aisle in the back that gets through the side door, 3 pig pens, and then like the main building door over here. And that's where I like feed and do all that stuff. So where he was up in the hayloft. He happened to be just close enough to the wall where he fell down into the aisleway. But it's like if he would have been farther or even fell, let's say, backwards and it just almost dropped straight through, he could have landed on these like steel gates, because I think at those points they were like sow gates. So like, the steel and concrete ones.
Yeah.
So it's like that could have been terrible, like breaking bones, breaking ribs.
Even if he fell on the ones like the new ones, he still falling backwards on his back, he would have broken a bone.
It would have been terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Not only that, but when he did come down, he did end up with a scar because there was an old nail that was probably sticking out of the wood yay long for some reason. And I'm guessing it was there because at one point back in the day, someone would probably hang stuff on it. So it literally, he was right on the edge and he ended up with a scratch up his stomach, probably about 6 inches. And it's like, if he was even closer to the wall, that would have tore right into his stomach. Ooh. And possibly gutted him because he would have just been dead weight falling. Like, he got lucky. So lucky. Like, it's when you look at that and then even like my accident, it's almost hard to comprehend that it could have ended up so bad. Like, so bad. Like, even when, like, I've been in an accident. Like, Noah's accident could have been bad. Like, I know he totaled a truck. I didn't total my truck. But, like, dumbass. Thinking I can drift. Again, drifting story. It's always drifting.
You did that?
Yeah.
In a car?
In my truck. You remember my truck, right?
Which
my first vehicle. My truck. The old 1982
I do not remember
Ford F-150.
No. All I remember is
if I showed you a picture, you would probably maybe recognize it. But, well, I guess we didn't hang around and I didn't drive people in it because there's no room. It was a single cab, old truck. 2-wheel drive. One night coming home from my uncle's, get on a roundabout.
Oh, no.
28. Fucking
28, those roundabouts?
Yeah, and it rained. And I was like, I'm going to try drifting for the first time, like a fucking jackass in a vehicle. And I tried drifting it. Overshoot it. Acid whips around. I overcorrect. Comes back the other way. And we run right into a light pole. And it falls onto the top of the truck. Dang. And it could have been so much worse. There was luckily no one on the roundabout at the time. We didn't hit anybody else. The truck didn't roll. We didn't go down the hill because we could have went all the way down into the pit. And it's like at that point we probably wouldn't have got hurt if we necessarily would have went all the way down. But like trying to get my truck out would have been bitch. Like we got lucky. We're basically also like the base for the light pole basically stopped us from going down further, and it also didn't fuck up my truck either, like on the underbelly somehow. So super lucky. Like my door got fucked up. I had some dents. Other than that, walked away with it without a scratch, no glass broken, no nothing.
Right.
Like,
Dang.
yeah, and we were 3 miles from our house at the time. It was just like, fuck. Like,
so you were going west.
Uh-huh.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so, yeah, my dad was pissed because he had to come help pull us out and
Cops came.
take it out. No.
Cops didn't come. You guys didn't hear that?
Nope. But hey, it happens. And yeah, it was just one of those crazy situations. And luckily, no one got hurt. But I know Bailey for a long time was like scared to ride with me for a while. Like, she straight up was like, "You gave me PTSD," and I'm like,
well, even like,
I mean, I get, like, she was 13. I'm like, I get it. Like, we could have got a lot more hurt, and I put you in a situation that you didn't necessarily need to be in. But at the same time, we didn't. So get over it. Like, you weren't hurt. It scared you, but that's it. At one point, you gotta get over that shit.
Even at the same time, looking at Evan's wreck.
Oh yeah, that's crazy,
dude. He flipped.
Yeah,
like he hit a light pole.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, his was. So, it's
dude,
crazy sometimes.
Have you seen the picture of it? Like, dude, he came out with just like a little scratch on his arm. No idea how he did that.
I mean, I've seen videos of cars that's gotten like rolled, and then the people just being fine. And it's just like,
it makes no sense though. Like, dude,
like, well, my dad got into an accident. I don't think I told you this one time, but he was out for a wedding in Colorado, and they were on this back road. So out there, like, you're in the middle of nowhere. You were in the middle of nowhere. So I don't even know how far they were from anything. I think the other guy was drinking. They both shouldn't have been driving. Either one of them was, and I think he dozed off, drove right into a fucking pole. No, the guy driving. He got ejected through the fucking window because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And my dad didn't. My dad was in the vehicle, but he was definitely like concussed, had scratches, like glass scratches all over his face, like stuff like that. Had to go to the ER, get some stitches. Like, luckily nothing major. But he got fucking thrown through the windshield and ended up like 15 feet away. And I mean, I think he had injuries, obviously, but I don't think it ended up being necessarily like anything major, considering that could have been something way worse. Like, and it's just like, yeah, you never know. You really never know. I mean, like, literally more people die, I think, driving than a lot of different things. Like, it's honestly very dangerous to drive. Like, it
really is. Like, just like we thought, life comes at you really fast. Like, you never know what the next second holds.
Yeah, it's not fun sometimes.
That's like what scared me. Just like at my wreck. I mean, it was just just a little scratch.
Yeah, but yeah, it happened so quick.
Dude, it's just anything can happen at any point.
I mean, even me hitting that barrier last week. Like, I think I told you that with my car. I mean, shit blew into the fucking highway. What am I, like, happened so fast. There's nothing I can do, and it could have gone so worse because it's like it could hit me square on, where maybe it fucked up my windshield. It could have flown over my car and hit the semi behind me. Like there was a semi behind me. There was other cars. Like, we're lucky that like my car didn't get fucking stopped because I could have got rear-ended. There could have been a pile. Like, it could have been bad. Like, I mean, even like 2-3 weeks ago on my way to work, there was like a 5-car collision on 31. I think someone was trying to cross and then got hit and then caused other people to like swerve off and end up in the ditch and stuff.
And the scary part is
crazy.
Semis. The semis can't stop.
No, they can't.
So like once you wreck and there's a semi behind you, you're going to get hit no matter what, unless the semi goes in the ditch. Yeah. That's the only option.
Dude. Okay, so speaking of semis and wrecks, since we're kind of on the topic real quick before we get off here, but there was this one video, I don't know what it was from or where this was taken, where I think this guy might have been in a separate vehicle, if not possibly the cab of the semi. It was kind of weird. I can't quite remember. But basically, the big accident happens. 2 semis involved, and I think maybe he was in the middle. Somehow he ended up in between the trailers. The rest of the vehicle completely, like, gone, pretty much. Like, shredded.
Oh, my gosh.
And he is in the perfect middle in between the 2 semi-trailers, sitting just in the cab. The rest of the vehicle is absolutely obliterated and destroyed. And I think he walked away with a few scratches. And he was just, like, pinned in there. Like, he couldn't get out. But I don't think, like, anything major. And he's literally, like, right in the middle of this thing. And the rest of his vehicle's, like, been crushed. And
that is crazy.
And like basically where he is the only thing that's like not completely like destroyed, and they're able to get him out. And it's like, wow, that is ridiculous. Like, that is imagine walking away from that. Like I don't even know what I'd do. Like,
I would be surprised.
Yeah, like I mean, and the thing is, he's just stuck there for a minute. So he's like sitting there for a while until they figure out like, oh, he's here. Let alone we gotta get him out. So he's just like in there. And it's just like, what the fuck?
And like surprising, like no other cars are going to explode because of how big and I bet it was probably a big accident. Yeah. And you know, gas is probably leaking.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I bet engines are probably on fire.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Certain situations people end up in. But all right, well, I think that might do us for our first episode together. We got a few things to discuss off air, and we'll figure some shit out.
We made some good time.
I think we did. And we'll work on possibly having like a themed episode, I guess, or a topic and stuff.
We should try it.
But hey, I think this episode turned out pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I can't complain.
Also, if you guys have any suggestions for the name,
yeah, comment it.
Yep.
Comment it down below. DM us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think that'll probably do it for this episode. If you guys haven't already, because I didn't mention it earlier, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on other platforms.
Smack that like button.
Smack the like button, like you said, apparently. Yep. And just watch the whole thing. Why not? We'll get to this point. Because you'll be extra special. And
come on, this Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that'll do us for this week. We'll see you guys all next week.
All right. See ya.
Peace out.